in arms every single day about where they are. You need to know where they are. So now you got to get their bank statements because this is what you need to feel secure. Even when you don't have anything that points that is something going on. I mean, come on, for real. So I think that you're about to.
Here's something else. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think that you're about to really deal with a deeper issue. And I think if you start, the first time you start giving them a little bit of access, it's going to grow into something that's huge. They're going to want to know every single
Absolutely.
And to me, that's a sign of psychological and emotional abuse is about to take place eventually, because that means you went down to the Kroger. The Kroger is 5 minutes from the house. You went in there and you've been gone an hour. You were only going to get milk and cereal and you just getting back. Where else you been? That's going to explode.
Yeah, see, you're absolutely right. And that's a part of what I'm saying, this entire culture of tracking people. Here's the thing, I know there's a distinction between dating and marriage and life partnership and all of those things, because it should be normal for a couple to discuss what they have to do that day, right? That's normal, right? So you should know what I got to do. Now, yeah, I don't have a problem with somebody asking me stuff. I don't think that's what we're advocating. But I do think, like you said, you bring up something very interesting when you say about going to the Kroger and you're gone. First of all, why are you tracking how long it takes?
Absolutely.
So, like you said, a lot of this really stems from insecurity. Some of this, let me say this, stems from insecurity and control issues. I do think when we're talking about marriage, and I know Mario, I mean, you can speak to this better than me, but oftentimes I know during the counseling phase and the premarital phase, you guys do talk about don't have anything that's going to create problems. So
right.
If that phone don't create a problem, if it's you may need to have that conversation and consider that, because the question is, why have something that's going to have a problem, especially if you're dealing with people that have made it through a betrayal that dealt with this.
Absolutely.
Right? So this is an absolute when someone says yay or nay in terms of that. And I wanted to make sure that we talked about that before we do sign off, because it's very important for people to know that, again, this is an individual thing. If you know that you ain't never gonna want to share the phone, like I was laughing because Sophia was like, as soon as she asked for my phone, I'm gonna hand her the cell phone bill to pay.
Right. I agree.
Right. I agree too. But you handle that bill, she got every phone number you didn't call you.
But you know what? Let me say this.
He's talking about as I want to just press this real quick. He's talking about as a practical matter, right? You want to go to my phone, okay, then you're responsible. I get that. What I'm saying to people in general is that understand what it means when you give access to stuff. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, one of the things I want to go to when I deal with couples, and believe it or not, LaTanya, when I tell them that these are conversations they need to have, people want to avoid these conversations. You know what? They don't really want to talk about them until they've already caught them doing something or whatever. But I'm saying, like, on the front end, you need to have this conversation. What is it that you've had happen to you before this current relationship in the area of cheating, deception, and all of that? Because you may be bringing that suspicion over into the new relationship. Now, this person hasn't given you any type of indication that they're that person, but you bring it in, and now you have this set of demands that you need to build you back up in the area of security. Now, the person is not built for that. You got to be honest enough, people, for real, hear me tonight. Be honest enough to say you're not built to be watched like that, to be monitored that way. And it's not because you have anything to hide, but it's because you want to reserve something for yourself. There needs to be some privacy left for yourself, particularly on the dating end, because I don't know what we're going to be. I'm not sure if we're going to last. And so we need to have something that is somewhat, roped off. If you want to just say that, there needs to be some parameters. So I feel like that's a conversation that people need to have very honestly. They need to be able to say, yo, up front, let me tell you how I am about my phone. Don't touch my phone. I'm not going to touch yours. If somebody calls me, I don't want you answering my phone. And if you think that that's because I've got something to hide, then I understand. That's okay. But this isn't going to work. But I do believe in the day of technology, people have been cheated on while people were sitting up there looking at them and they're texting and they're doing that. So I don't want anybody tonight to feel like, well, Tanya Mario unreasonable. They just don't understand what happened to me. Trust me when I tell you, I do understand exactly what has happened. I know why you feel insecure. I know that you know the signs when you see them. But I think on a logical sense, you owe it to yourself to say, I got to have this conversation because I have experienced this and I'm not going to beat around the bush about it. We are two adults and we need to talk about it. Then you got to put that radar on to see if that joker lying. You know when he lying and you know when she lying.
Here's the thing. When you said something very crucial, and I want people to understand, if you're sitting across the table or next to a potential significant other or a significant other, y'all have gotten to that point and you have this conversation and you realize that this is a deal breaker for you. Because that's what we're talking about, right? Deal maker, deal breaker. That it is a deal breaker for you if this person doesn't share that and they have told you exactly how Mario, presented it. You got a choice to make, right? Because why continue knowing that this is going to be a problem for you and create suspicion in your head, or real suspicion, right? So then you got a choice to make. What I want everybody to do is love yourself enough to say,
absolutely, this
doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because the other person may tell you where you're being insecure and you're being this, and maybe you're not. Maybe, like Mario said, you're just like, look, I just need this because I done been down this road. I don't want it. Again, think about like domestic relationships, right? Where people have been in like violent relationships, men or women. Lots of them say, don't rush me, don't run up on me, don't jump in my face.
Right.
Because that was the precursor before to next thing you know, you bleed. So they want you to not do. It's a trigger. That's the word I was looking for. It's a trigger for them. So you have to think, if you know that this is a trigger for you, love yourself enough to say, hey, this person is not willing to give me what I need so that I can be secure in this relationship. And you have to be okay with, that's your deal breaker, right?
That's your deal breaker.
I have been in situations with people that I've said, my deal breaker is this, like, I can deal with a lot of stuff, but when you do this right here, that's it for me. And they did it, and it was it. And we don't argue now. We don't, the time, like, we got cordial, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I would not go back there because I realized that you don't respect me enough not to come for me and my triggers because you got an issue about something else.
Well, let me interrupt you.
That's who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I want to be sure because we run out of time. There's an interesting comment. Kathy says, is it that people are scared to ask the question because they don't want to be alone? I really want to address that. This is a serious issue. Is it the reason, I guess you're saying, is the reason that the people don't want to have the conversation about where they are, what their triggers are, as you just stated? Is it that they don't want to be alone? Let me say this to you, because this is my area. I don't care what anybody says about, they don't want to be alone. If you're going to stress yourself out to have a stroke, you're going to put your life in danger. You're going to have high blood pressure because on the front end, you can't take that. The critical piece to this is be honest with yourself and stop going into these relationships, trying to change folk, trying to see the best in them, keeping hope alive. You're going to have to be totally honest. You're going to have to be integral to yourself. I see what I see. I know I've seen that before. I'm not built for that. Alone is better than being in that hospital hooked up to tubes because somebody had a stroke trying to run behind somebody that's clearly not going to behave properly.
Absolutely. So and here's the thing. It may not be proper behavior, but that's their behavior, right? Remember, we talked about last time about, people's values and things like that. And I think that we have to get to that place where we love ourselves and we want to be healthy all around.
Preservation. self-preservation.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Gotta
It's got to be
understand.
self-preservation. I get, I see so many people sometimes, man, I know when I see a person who fears being alone, and I know that they start expanding their tolerance for narcissistic behavior. They start expanding their tolerance for that bipolar behavior that's legitimate. And they think they can stay there and fix it. Like, if you learn to stay there, you learn to take it. You learn to accommodate it, and it only gets worse. I would encourage anybody that being alone doesn't mean you're lonely. That doesn't make you don't have to be lonely because you're alone, but it will preserve your life and stop premature death. If this type of relationships makes your hair fall out, it puts you on medication, you lose your job, you lose your self-worth, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. So I'm encouraging you, don't let the fear of being alone stop you from taking a proactive approach to self-preservation.
Get a dog.
Get a bird. Get a bird. Get a cat.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
go volunteer.
You can listen. The animal shelters guys are like busting the scene. I need you to adopt our furry friends. Not just kidding.
You are petty tonight. You are petty tonight.
I am being petty, but to address that though, that is really a crucial fact, because I think that some people, they do want to be connected to somebody. And let's be clear, because I've been in some situations like that but you always think about when it ain't like that. You know what I'm saying? Because the good times, a lot of times, will far outweigh the bad, but the bad's so bad, you just like, okay, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Right? Because the bad is so bad, you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. But you do think about the good times. You do think about what you meant to each other during that time. But you cannot let that dictate your present health status. You can't let that dictate the rest of your life. I know we have a short time left. So Mario, I'm just gonna ask you straight up. Should people, do you recommend, because you're the life coach, do you recommend that people share that information? And if so, when and how much should they share?
Personally, Latanya, in a dating situation, I don't think that you should share anything. I just honestly do not believe that you need to share anything. And then I'll go a step further, that you're not comfortable sharing and are willing to deal with the consequences of that sharing. Because there may be consequences. And if you decide, because I think that everybody has to make their own decision, if you decide to share that information, you're also saying, I'm willing to deal with the fallout of it. And so it means also you have to ask yourself the question, if I share the email and I share the passcode on the phone, what's next? You just have to be ready that that's going to spiral into something else. And so what I say to each individual, because I'm kind of learning not to impose my personal view on it, but I want people to make an adult decision about it, because it does carry certain consequences. And you just got to be ready for that. I think that once you make that adult decision about it, you just need to say to yourself, if I share this information, what comes after this? And what if it goes left? Can I deal with that? All right. And the next thing is, if I want their information, would I get the same, respect, or would they give me the same leeway? But I don't want it. So I just think that everybody has to decide. I don't know if the dating is the right space and time for that. I just don't believe that. I think that once you get married, maybe, I think that there is a reason for that. Even if you have a separate account and maybe a joint account, I think someone else pointed that out. I think that that's okay. But when it comes to all these passcodes and all that kind of stuff, I don't think anybody asks for it that much. In my practice, I see they don't ask for it unless there's something that they suspect. So I don't think that that's just always the norm. So I don't know. I just feel like have the conversation, but be ready for the fallout, whichever way it goes. Be ready for that. Yep.
And what I would add to that is, and that could be up to and including walking away.
Yeah.
If it is that important to you, where it is on the deal breaker side, if you're indifferent, then great. But if it's on the deal breaker side, you have to be at a place where you're willing to walk away. So this has been interesting.